Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Non-violence or peace in each tradition is connected to a physical hermeneutic, one that cannot be separated from how followers demonstrate their faith through their care for another human being. Thus, an emphasis is placed on respect for human life that comes from and is sustained by a person's faith, commitment to her or his religious practices, including love, reconciliation, and benevolence. So, we're going to talk about what is non-violence in three religions, which is Islam, Christian, and Buddhism, and how they teach, how this religion teach its followers about non-violence and how they practice it in their life.
Now, let's look at the non-violence in Islam. Islam is known as a peace religion. Muslims are encouraged to strive for peace and peaceful solutions to all problems. The first teachings or principles that practiced by Muslims to non-violence is the tolerance with others' religion. Islam accommodates and welcomes all people as brothers and sisters regardless of their distinctive and particular affiliations or backgrounds. The Islamic attitude towards the followers of other religions is not only to show tolerance towards their beliefs, but also to affirm non-negotiable Islamic principles of tolerance and religious responsibility. In fact, Islam through the course of its history has granted the people of other faiths the highest degree of tolerance by allowing them to follow their way, although some of their practices might have been in conflict with their religion of the majority. It was the degree of tolerance that the Muslims adopted towards their non-Muslim citizens by the spirit of tolerance which underlies upright attitudes, benevolent dealings, respect for one's neighbors, and all the sincere sentiments of piety, compassion, and courtesy. Thus, the Quran asks Muslims to engage in dialogue with others, especially the Ahlul Kitab, people of the book. Surah Al-Imran verse 64 instructs Muslims to come to an equitable proposition between us and you, that we shall not serve any but Allah, and that we shall not associate aught with Him. The second one is Islam respecting the worship and sacred places of others' religion. Islam teaches its followers to defend places of worship belonging to different religions against desecration or destruction. The Quran has enjoined upon the Muslim to defend, even with their lives, all the places of worship, the churches, the synagogues, the temples and cloisters, the mosques, etc. And Islam always instructs to establish freedom of belief and worship. During the wars, it was forbidden to kill religious leaders, priors, or rabbis in their respective places of worship, and to attack and demolish places of worship. Muslims have been made to promise that they will help defend the followers of other faiths from unjust and cruel attacks as well. Islam provides a religious and psychological foundation for its people to accept the presence of other religions and make good relations among its people. The Quran also acknowledges the diversity of religions, teach their principles of freedom of religion, living together in peace, and even encourage the spirit of competing with each other in doing good and being positive in relating and cooperating with people of different religions.
Thirdly, the non-violence in muamalah. One of the aspects in Islam which are related to the economic activities are buying and selling activities, are known as muamalah. God encouraged this muamalah in accordance with the provision Sharia and the main sources in Islam, which are Al-Quran and Hadith. In Surah Al-Baqarah state that whereas Allah has permitted trading and forbidden usury, Rasulullah SAW also said in a hadith meaning 9/10 of the sustenance come from the business. In fact, Islam really applies moral values in the right way to get blessing from the Creator. As Muslims, they are not allowed to commit any crime in muamalah to others in human life, as the Holy Quran mentioned that to have been created with an excellent character, and the Prophet Muhammad SAW also said to himself, I have been sent only for the purpose of perfecting morals. So, it's proof that every followers are forbidden to apply negative behaviors among human beings. For example, the illegal thing that was provided in Islam, which include usury, correction, measurement and weighing rates are reduced, cheating due to run the business sale, buy stolen item and others. So, every Muslim needs to know deeply more about the concept of muamalah so as not to easily catch up in bad deeds. Obviously, Islam emphasizes the muamalah that has been the concept of non-violence and does not give negative effects to others, even different religions. Thus, the non-violence in Islam also include the non-violence in family life. Islam obliges every Muslim to provide protection to the children because the children are the gift and awards from the God. So, the basic principle to the responsibility of the family are the care and protection. In Islam, parents need to take care of their children and never commit any violence to them. The example of violence in family life that was provided in Islam are child maltreatment, physical abuse, neglect the right or moral, bullying, hitting and others. Islam forbids its followers to do any negative things toward children due to children bring serenity and sustenance in life. It's clearly mentioned in Surah Al-Isra, tell that do not kill your children for fear of poverty. We provide sustenance to them and to you too. Killing them is a great sin indeed. So, parents need to be the best role model to ensure that their children not involve the non-violence to others and also ensure the bright future for them. Prophet SAW also mentioned, all of you are guardians and be responsible for your words and the things under your care. In short, parents need to surround their lovely children with fully of kindness, compassion, away from any harshness and other things that was provided in Islam.
Next, we move to the non-violence in Islamic leadership or in politics. Political Islam refers to a broad set of political ideologies that utilize and draw inspiration from Islamic symbols and traditions in pursuit of a socio-political objective. Leadership is embodied in the pillar of accountability. Islam not favor transfer of power to the oppressed. Indeed, the Prophet Muhammad in the hadith states, each of you is a guardian and is responsible for his subjects. Hadith Sahih al-Bukhari. There are many constitutional values that apply non-violence in Islamic leadership. Firstly, shura, it be chosen out of free will by the people. Secondly, justice, it is not limited to rulers but covers all citizens in all aspects of life. Thirdly, liberty, it includes freedom of opinion, of belief, of education, of ownership and personal freedom. Personal freedom includes freedom of movement, right to shelter, and right to security. Fourthly, equality. Without discrimination, ethnic origin, or creed, people must have equal rights, liberties, duties, and public responsibilities. Fifth, rulers' accountability. Decree obedience of rulers as long as they obey God and abstention from their obedience when they disobey God. Next, let's move to the non-violence in Islamic social life. In an Islamic society, no one is inferior to another. All people are equal. They are all given equal rights and social justice is the key to an Islamic social system. For the neighborhood, Islam prohibits to harm neighbors, advise mankind to treat neighbors in a good way, always respect the neighbor's gift, and also be good to the neighbor no matter their religion. In Hadith, Prophet Muhammad said, "Whoever believes in Allah and the last day should do well to his neighbor." Hadith riwayat Muslim. It is important to treat nice towards neighbors, and reveals hurting or troubling a neighbor is such a serious offense that will cause Allah's wrath and punishment in hell. The conclusion for non-violence in Islamic religion: all Muslims believe in the oneness of the Creator and obey all His commands with respect to God, to himself, to society, and to the environment. The Islamization of non-violence can be acceptable to non-Muslims because it is relevant and effective in the context of need of all humankind today.
Non-violence in Christianity. Christianity teaches non-violence, as Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers." In addition, they also adhere to the principle of pacifism. Pacifism in Christianity means the theological and ethical position that any form of violence or reject all violence because they think that it is incompatible with Christian beliefs. Christian pacifists say that if their Jesus was also the one who taught and practiced pacifism, then his followers should do the same, which is to practice pacifism in their lives.
Firstly, prohibition of murder in Christianity. The law of killing and the behavior of killing, there is no teaching that will justify it. For the Jesus, it is not only murder but stems from its root, which will start from anger and hatred in the heart. Starting from anger and hatred, killing behavior will occur. We must be able to withstand the hatred that is in our heart to be able to prevent actions that end up committing major sins and taking someone's life. Because anger and hatred are the root of murder and the devil is the father of the killer. Starting from the murder must begin to be investigated and that must be eradicated and punished. The Jesus once said in Matthew chapter 5 verses 21 to 22, "You have heard that it was said to our father, 'Do not kill. Whoever kills must be punished.'" Thus the explanation of the law of killing in Christianity that must be understood because Jesus hates killing for whatever reason. Get into the habit of suppressing emotion and holding back anger in dealing with everything that you experience, because heinous acts such as killing are rooted in hatred and anger. Secondly, prohibiting slavery. Slavery is a social institution in which some group of human beings are treated as the property for another group of human beings, usually for the purpose of the economic enrichment of the owners through the forced labor of the enslaved. The term slavery must also be more generally applied any situation in which someone is forced to work against their will. This is also often referred to as forced labor. In modern times, various Christian organizations reject the permission of slavery. Lastly, instruction to honor parents. Parents are the closest and most respected human being in the family institution. They sacrifice a lot in raising and educating children. They never ask for or expect a return or payment for fatigue, tired, sacrifice, and love they give. Appreciation of the moral value of ethic and manner in respecting parents in Christianity and culture will lead us to a civilization life, and indirectly it acts as a catalyst for the integrity of moral value in the public. Among the way to be kind of parents is to speak kindly, care about them, and help them. Bible verse about respecting your parents, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother. This is the first commandment with a promise, that it may go well with you
and that you may live long in the land. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instrument of the Lord. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1 to 4.
Next, the prohibition of stealing in Christianity. Prohibition of stealing is one of the commandments found in the 10 Commandments, and it is the 8 Commandments. In Christianity, they are forbidden to steal or take anything that does not belong to them. This is because it is a wrong act and can lead to sin. Not only that, in fact, from the very beginning, the act of stealing was forbidden in Christianity. The evidence of the prohibition of stealing is stated in the law of Moses and the law of Christ. First, you shall not steal from Exodus chapter 20 verse 15. Second, for the commandments, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not covet, and any other commandments are summed up in this word: you shall love your neighbor as yourself, from Romans chapter 13 verse 9. In Christianity, its followers are encouraged to strive to meet their own needs and be able to help those in need. The main reasons why some of them steal is because of greed and greediness. They believe that greed is one of the great sins where it can lead a person to commit evil things, including stealing. Therefore, the act of stealing should be avoided because the punishment for a thief is very severe as stated in the Old Testament. Sometimes, thieves are killed, and those who steal should be punished the same as before. Love your enemies. According to Christianity, loving the enemy is a hard thing to follow, but it comes straight from the mouth of God. Therefore, they should not only obey the message, but they are also asked to do so with joy and a happy heart. The evidence that Christians need to love their enemies is mentioned in the Bible. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. From Matthew chapter 5 verse 44. Even if their enemies have cheated, lied to them, stolen from them, slandered them, and hurt them or their loved ones, they still need to love their enemies. Among the ways Christians can do to love their enemies is by willing to sacrifice to help others in need, willing to forgive those people who have wronged them, support people who stand for what is right, even they have treated them badly in the past. Social justice. The term social justice came into use in the late 1800s. In a general sense, this refers to the idea that everyone, no matter who they are, should be treated fairly by the society and given equal opportunities, both in terms of wealth, activities, and human rights. The Bible says a lot about justice, one of which is learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression, bring justice to the fatherless, and place the widow's cause. From Isaiah chapter 1 verse 17. In the Bible, God has stated that He will choose people not based on their race, gender, or status, but because of their faith to Him. The Bible also supports the ideas that all human beings have equal values and that we should care for those in need in our society. The Bible directs its commands to care for the poor, especially to individuals. People have to help others. The individual is also given a choice about how they want to help. Helping others should be based on God's love and the love of others.
Prohibited of sexual. Sexual is prohibited in Christianity's religion, for some reason, in context of violence. Sexual violence becomes violence when someone compels or manipulates another person into undesired sexual activity without their consent. The proven that sexual prohibited in Christianity in the Bible. Forcing sexual acts upon another person is condemned in Deuteronomy 22 to 25 and to 28. 25. But if the man meets the engaged woman out in the country and he rapes her, then only the man must die. 26. Do nothing to the young woman. She has committed no crime worthy of death. She is as innocent as a murder victim. 27. Since the man raped her out in the country, it must be assumed that she screamed, but there was no one to rescue her. 28. Suppose a man has intercourse with a young woman who is a virgin but is not engaged to be married. Prohibited of alcohol. In Christianity, according to Bible Hub, it does not specifically condemn drinking, but does warn against alcohol misuse. In contrast, the Bible permits drinking in certain circumstances, mainly for celebration and health, and even encourage it. The proven that permits drinking alcohol in Bible. It appears that drinking is appropriate when done for health or medicinal reasons. Stop drinking only water and use a little wine because of your stomach and your frequent ailments. Timothy 5:23. Celebration. Drinking appears to be a law as well. Go then, eat your bread in happiness and drink your wine with a cheerful heart, for God has already approved your work. Ecclesiastes 9:7. The alcohol is prohibited in the context of violence in Christianity. Heavy drinking is linked to other immoral behavior in the Bible, and it is frequently discouraged. Do not get drunk on wine, which leads to reckless indiscretion. Instead, be filled with the Spirit. Ephesians 5:18. Let us behave decently, as in the daytime, not in carousing and drunkenness, not in sexual immorality and debauchery, not in dissension and jealousy. Romans 13:13. Prohibited of taking the right of others. Rights are fundamental normative standards concerning what is authorized or owed to people according to some legal system, social convention, or ethical philosophy. So, if people taken away their rights is really forbidden in Christianity. The provision of prohibited of taking the people's right. If you take your friend's robe as a pledge, then you must return it to him before sunset. 22-26. In conclusion, the Bible begins with the affirmation that God saw the universe that had been created as very good, but soon outlines the human predicament in terms of alienation between God and human beings, and between human beings and nature, but Christians has its non-violence perspective. Many of its followers practice what has been taught in Christianity.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is NURANISA ATHIRAH binti Muhammad AZMAN. My number matric 1192780. Okay, now we go to non-violence in Buddhism. In Buddhism, they use the 5 precepts or 5 rules of training is the most important system of morality for Buddhist lay people. The 5 precepts is number 1, not killing, not stealing, not misusing sex, not lying, and not abusing intoxicants. Now we go to precept number 1, which is not killing. Not killing the human. In the 5 precepts, taking left means to murder anything that lives. It refers to the striking and killing of living beings. Apart from that, the extent of the offense is proportionate to the intensity of the wish to kill. 5 factors are involved. Number 1, a living being, the perception of a living being, a thought of murder, the action of carrying it out, and a death as a result of it. To animal, Buddhists also believe that it's wrong to hurt and kill animals because all beings are afraid of pain, suffering, and death. So in experimenting using animals, a Buddhist approach may require. Okay, so next, vegetarian. The main reason Buddhists observe vegetarianism is to develop their sense of compassion and loving kindness. Buddhists stated that the major goal of no killing is to develop their compassion. The Nirvana Sutra stated, eating meat destroys the seed of compassion, and a meat eaters, every action will terrify all beings due to their bodily sense of meat. Okay, the punishment to Buddhists for killing At first, many Buddhists, especially in the West, as an injunction against supporting any legal measure which might lead to death penalty. However, almost throughout history, countries where Buddhism has been official religion, which have included most of the Far East and Indochina, have practiced the death penalty. Now, the next precept is not lying. This waste of energy greatly decreases the capacity to function effectively in this world, and it greatly lessens our ability to absorb the truth of Buddhism. Let's hurt others because they damage their trust and the sense of what is right and wrong. This very serious kind of damage, it wastes time, frightens people, and causes them to doubt their basic intuitions and feelings. Okay, the importance of using good language. In Buddhism, being truthful goes beyond simply not telling lies. It means speaking truthfully and honestly. Speech rooted in the three poisons, which are hate, greed, and ignorance, is false speech. If your speech is designed to get something you want, or to hurt someone you do not like, or to make you seem more important to others, it is a false speech. Even what if you say is factual. For example, repeating ugly gossip about someone you do not like is false speech, even if the gossip is true. The harm caused by lying. Lying has many names. Some of them are deceit, duplicity, slander, distortion, fraud, forgery, and perjury. Lying can bring harm to everyone involved that they never produce good results. In the long run, sentient beings generate much of their bad karma and attachment to samsara through lying alone. The karmic results by lying, according to the Mahaprajnaparamita Sastra, lying without a regret or repentance will completely block the way enlightenment and bring the unhappy results.
Non-violence in Buddhism. The second precept prohibits theft and related activities such as fraud and forgery. Second precept prohibits theft and involves the intention to steal what one perceives as not belonging to oneself, what is not given, and acting successfully upon the intention. The severity of the act of theft is judged by the worth of the owner and the worth of that which is stolen. Underhand dealings, fraud, cheating, and forgery are also included in this precept. Accompanying virtues are generosity, renunciation, and right livelihood, and a positive behavior is the protection of other people's property. The second precept includes different ways of stealing and fraud. Borrowing without permission is sometimes included, as well as gambling. Psychologist Venchai Aryabhudipongs did studies in the 2000s and 2010s in Thailand and discovered that people who did not adhere to the 5 precepts more often tended to believe that money was the most important goal in life and would more often pay bribes than people who did not adhere to the precepts. On the other hand, people who observe the 5 precepts regarded themselves as wealthier and happier than people who did not observe the precepts. Professions that are seen to violate the second precepts included working in the gambling industry or marketing products that are not actually required for the customer.
Alright, we go to the third precept of Buddhism. In Buddhism, believers are allowed to having a sex. Alright, most religions have a rigid, elaborate rules about sexual misconduct. Buddhists have a third precept. In Pali, Kemsu, Mikara, Varamani, Sikapadam Samadhyami, which is most commonly translated as do not indulge in sexual misconduct or do not misuse sex. However, for lay people, the elite structures are heavy about what constitutes sexual misconduct. Alright, in the rules of having a sex in Buddhism precepts, we go to the monastic rules. Okay, monastic rules. Most monks and nuns must follow the rules of the Vinaya Pitaka. Vinaya Pitaka, for example, monks and nuns who engage in sexual intercourse are defeated and are expelled automatically from the order. If a monk and nuns makes it sexually suggestive comments to a woman, to a community of monks must meet and address the transgression. A monk should avoid even the appearance of impropriety by being alone with a woman. Nuns may not allow men to touch, rub, or fondle them anywhere between the collarbone and the knees. Lyric of most schools of Buddhism in Asia continues to follow the Vinaya Pitaka, with the exception of Japan. Alright, the second is living the precepts. Alright, the precepts of Buddhism are not commandments. They are followed as a personal commitment to Buddhist practice. Falling short is unskilled, akusala, but not sinful. After all, there is no God to sin against. Furthermore, the precepts are principles, not rules, and it is up to individual Buddhists to decide how to apply them. This takes a greater degree of discipline and self-harnessly. Buddhists too legalistic. Just follow the rules and don't ask questions or push to ethics. The Buddha said, "Be a refuge unto yourself." He taught us to use our own judgment when it comes to religious and moral teachings. And the next is specific sexual issues. Alright, first is marriage. Most religions and moral codes of the ways draw a clear, bright line around marriage. Sex inside the line is good, while sex outside the line is bad. Although monogamous marriage is still, Buddhism generally backs the attitude the sex between two people who love each other is immoral, whether they are married or not. On the other hand, sex within marriage can be abusive, and marriage doesn't make the abusive moral. Alright, the next is homosexuality. Homosexuality, you can find anti-homosexual teachings in some schools of Buddhism, but most of these reflect local cultural attitudes more than they do Buddhism itself. In the several schools of Buddhism today, only Tibetan Buddhism specifically discourages sex between men, thought, not between women. The prohibition comes from the work of a 15th century scholar named Tsongkhapa, who probably based this idea in early Tibetan texts. Alright, the next is desire. The second noble truth, teach that the cause of suffering is craving or thirst of tanha. This doesn't mean craving should be replaced or denied. Instead, in Buddhist practice, we acknowledge our passion and learn to see that they are empty, or so they no longer control us. This is true for hate, good, greed, and other negative emotions. Sexual desire is no different. And then lastly, the middle way. Western culture at the moment seems to be at war with itself over sex, which rigid Puritanism on one side and licentiousness on the other. Always Buddhism teaches us to avoid extreme and to find a middle way. As individuals, we may make different decisions, but it is wisdom, prajna, and loving kindness, metta, not disorderful, that show us the path. Based on the last 5 of precepts, is Buddhism are allowing their believers to drinking and alcohol. Right. The 5 precepts in Theravada Buddhism. Bhikkhu Bodhi explained in Going for Refuge that the 5th precept can be translated from the Pali to prohibit fermented and distilled liquors, which are intoxicants, or fermented and distilled liquors and other intoxicants. And the way, clearly, and intoxicants of the precepts is to prevent heedlessness caused by the taking of intoxicant substances. Alright, the next is the fifth precept in Mahayana Buddhism. Mahayana Buddhism is, for the most part, follow the precept as explained in the Mahayana Parahajama Brahmana Sutra. There is a Trivada Sutra with the same name, but there are different texts. In the sutra, drinking liquor is a minor offense, but selling is a major. Breach of the precepts to drink liquor hurts only oneself, but selling and perhaps distributing it for free hurts others, and it's a violation on the Bodhisattva vows. Within the several schools of Mahayana, there are some sectarian difference on the matter of drinking, but the fifth precept often is not treated as an absolute prohibition. Further, the meaning of intoxicants is broadened to include anything that distracts us from the path, not just alcohol and drugs. In the course of our life, most of us develop mental and physical habits that enable nice, cozy states of heedlessness. The challenge of working with the fifth precepts is to identify what those are, deal with them. From this perspective, the question of whether to abstain from alcohol entirely or drink in moderation is an individual one that requires some spiritual maturity and self-honesty. Alright, from our presentation, we see that all religions in this world, whether the religion is Islam, Christian, or Buddhism, all religions in this world taught their believers to do good and having a good morals or having a good ethic, whether their life or not, because all religion in this world taught their believers to be the best in their life. It was a function to having a good religion who taught their believers to be the best in their life. Alright, that's all from us, so thank you.